There's a certain power that comes with age, but only if you protect it. The older you get, the more you realize not everything sacred should be shared. Because the moment you start explaining your peace to people who thrive on chaos, you lose it. So today, I want to tell you the truth. Not everything you've learned, healed from, or built deserves to be seen, understood, or approved by anyone. Some things you hide because they're your power. One of the most powerful things an older woman can ever learn is to protect her healing. Because healing, it's not just about moving on, it's about rebuilding parts of yourself that the world tried to convince you were broken forever. And once you've done that, once you've picked up the pieces, it becomes something sacred, something not meant for everyone's eyes. See, when you start telling people about your healing, the nights you cried alone, the times you doubted yourself, the moments you almost gave up, most won't understand. Some will sympathize, sure, but others will analyze, compare, and even judge. They'll take the most personal chapters of your story and turn them into gossip. And that's why I say some things, especially your healing, deserve to be hidden. Not because it's shameful, but because it's yours. There's power in mystery. There's peace in privacy. When you keep your healing journey to yourself, you stop allowing people to reopen wounds that you already worked so hard to close. You stop explaining why you don't react the same anymore, why you no longer tolerate certain energy, or why you protect your space so fiercely. You've earned that calm. You've earned that wisdom. You don't owe anyone the story behind it. And I get it. Sometimes you want to share. You want people to know how far you've come, how deep you've grown, how strong you've become. But remember this, not everyone who claps for you wants to see you healed. Some people prefer the version of you that needed saving, because when you're healed, you're not as easy to control. You start saying no more often. You start walking away quicker. You stop begging for love that costs your peace. That's why healing in silence is so powerful. You don't announce it. You don't post it. You don't defend it. You live it. You let your energy shift without explanation. You let your peace confuse people who once knew your pain. That's real growth. When you stop needing the world to understand your journey, the truth is, healing changes your language. You stop explaining your worth. You stop arguing with people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop seeking closure from situations that no longer deserve your attention. You start protecting your energy like it's gold, because it is. And if you share it too freely, you invite noise back into your silence. There's a version of you that exists now only because you didn't give up when life got heavy. You carried yourself through storms that no one even saw. You smiled when you wanted to disappear. You stood up when your knees were shaking. That's sacred. That's not for the world to pick apart. You don't need validation for surviving what almost broke you. You just need peace. So when someone asks how you did it, how you managed to stay strong, how you learned to love yourself again, smile and say, I just decided to stop bleeding for people who never bothered to bandage me. Because your healing is not a public performance. It's a private resurrection. And the ones who truly see your light won't need to hear your story to respect your strength. They'll feel it. Hide your healing, not out of fear, but out of respect for the woman you became because of it. Money has a strange way of revealing people's true intentions. The moment an older woman starts getting her life together financially, suddenly everyone around her develops an opinion. People start watching you differently, not because they're proud of you, but because they're measuring what they can get from you. That's why you have to keep your financial moves to yourself. Not every win needs to be announced. Not every plan needs to be shared. Some victories are meant to stay quiet. You see, financial independence is more than numbers in a bank account. It's emotional freedom. It's the peace that comes from knowing you don't have to depend on anyone who used to make you feel small. It's the confidence of walking into a room knowing that you don't need to prove anything, borrow anything, or beg for anything. That kind of power makes some people uncomfortable. And that's exactly why you protect it. Because once people see you doing well, they start trying to claim pieces of your success. The ones who never supported your hustle suddenly want to advise you. The ones who mocked your dreams start asking how they can be part of them. They'll question your decisions, your spending, even your goals, not because they care, but because your growth makes them realize they stayed still. So instead of celebrating you, they find ways to challenge you. They disguise envy as concern, jealousy as advice, and control as guidance. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone an explanation for how you earn, save, or spend your money. You don't need to tell anyone how much you make, what you're planning, or what you're investing in. The moment you start oversharing, you give people the power to judge you, to manipulate you, or to use your success as leverage. And that's not protection, that's exposure. Quiet money moves differently. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's not desperate for validation. Quiet money lets you sleep peacefully at night because you're not performing for approval. It's when you start building in silence that your real power starts to show. No one knows where you're headed, but they can feel something shifting. That's the kind of mystery that protects your peace. I've seen women destroy their own calm by feeling guilty about what they've earned. They start apologizing for outgrowing people who were never growing with them. But listen, you don't dim your light to make others feel comfortable in their shadows. You don't shrink your success to fit into rooms that can't handle your growth. You didn't work this hard to end up explaining yourself to people who only show up when it benefits them. So don't post every win. Don't broadcast every blessing. Let your lifestyle whisper what your discipline built. The ones who matter will see your glow and respect it. The ones who don't, they were never cheering for you anyway. You don't need validation from people who haven't done half the work you did. You don't need permission to be proud of what you've built quietly. And here's the secret. When you keep your financial life private, you stay unpredictable. People can't plot against what they can't measure. They can't drain what they don't have access to. Privacy isn't about hiding, it's about protecting. It's about knowing that not everyone deserves a front row seat to your progress. You've earned your independence. You've worked through nights of doubt, moments of fear, and seasons of sacrifice. Don't hand that peace away for a few likes, a few compliments, or a few fake "I'm proud of yous." Your money is your freedom, and your silence is its protection. Move in quiet confidence, not to impress anyone, but to remind yourself that the strongest women don't announce their power. They live it. When it comes to love, one of the hardest lessons an older woman learns is that not everyone deserves access to her story. You've been through enough to know that not every heartbreak needs to be analyzed, not every mistake needs to be confessed, and not every love lesson needs to be shared. The wisdom you've gained from love, the pain, the rebuilding, the forgiveness, that's sacred ground. And if you start handing it out to everyone, you'll find people using your lessons against you. You've loved deeply. You've trusted when you shouldn't have. You've given your all to people who were only halfway in. And that kind of love, the kind that cost you sleep, peace, and confidence, doesn't deserve to be turned into small talk. That's your growth, your awakening, your story of rising. It's not meant to be dissected by people who can't even handle honesty. When you share too much about what you've been through, you give others a blueprint to your boundaries. You teach them exactly how to approach you, how to test you, and sometimes how to hurt you again. People will study your pain, not to understand it, but to use it. That's why you keep certain parts of your love story hidden, because silence protects what you've learned. And maybe you've noticed this. When you tell people how much you've endured, they either pity you or compete with you. They rarely honor you. Some even start to see your strength as a challenge. They think, she survived worse, she can handle this too, and they test your limits all over again. That's the trap of oversharing. It invites people to underestimate your standards because they know how forgiving you've been in the past. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you walked away, why you stopped answering certain calls, or why your heart got quieter. You're not bitter. You're just protecting what's left of your peace. You've learned that not every conversation deserves your vulnerability. Sometimes silence is not a lack of trust. It's a boundary. And let's be honest, love teaches you things that can't always be put into words. It teaches you patience. It teaches you what loneliness feels like when it's disguised as companionship. It teaches you that sometimes the person you'd do anything for will do nothing for you. And once you learn that, once you really understand it, you stop giving everyone access to your emotional history. You stop teaching people what it took you years to learn. Keeping your relationship lessons private doesn't mean you're hiding your past. It means you're honoring your healing. You're saying, that part of my story doesn't belong to anyone else. Because when you keep your lessons to yourself, they turn into wisdom. But when you share them too freely, they turn into entertainment for people who don't value growth. And maybe that's the real beauty of growing older. You start choosing silence not because you don't have something to say, but because not everyone deserves to hear it. You start realizing that your peace is too precious to risk for validation. You stop explaining your boundaries because you understand people who truly love you won't need the history to respect your standards. They'll just respect you. So don't tell them what you've been through. Let your calm speak for itself. Let your confidence say, I've been tested, but I've learned. Let your energy show that you're no longer who you were before love hurt you. Because your past doesn't need to be repeated. It just needs to be respected. The most powerful thing you can ever do after heartbreak is not to explain it, not to defend it, but to rise so gracefully that no one ever sees the storm you survived. There's something unshakably powerful about a woman who no longer feels the need to prove how strong she is. You can see it in her eyes, calm, steady, focused. She's not loud about it. She's not trying to convince anyone. Because real strength doesn't shout. It doesn't demand to be noticed. It just is. And the older you get, the more you understand that your emotional strength isn't something to display for applause. It's something to protect for peace. There was a time when you probably thought strength meant showing up no matter how tired you were, forgiving even when it hurt, smiling through every disappointment just to keep the peace. But that wasn't strength. That was survival. And the woman you are now doesn't need to survive anymore. She needs to live, breathe, and rest in her power without explaining it. People often mistake your calm for weakness because they're used to the old version of you. The one who would fight to prove her worth, who would argue to be understood, who would cry in secret and then pretend she was fine. But the truth is, you've grown past that. You don't need to react to everything. You don't need to defend yourself every time someone misunderstands you. You've learned that silence can be louder than any argument. You've learned that peace is the loudest form of confidence. And maybe that confuses people because they remember the version of you that would chase closure, that needed to be heard, that cared too much about being liked. But now your strength comes from what you don't do. You don't chase people anymore. You don't explain your choices. You don't let your emotions run the show. You've learned that peace is not found in controlling others. It's found in controlling yourself. That kind of strength takes years to build. It comes from heartbreaks that forced you to stand on your own, from disappointments that made you realize no one's coming to save you, from moments where your only option was to be your own hero. And when you've been through all that, you stop needing recognition. You don't need to prove your strength to anyone because you are your proof. You've carried burdens that no one knew about. You've smiled in rooms where you were breaking inside. You've been the strong one for everyone else while silently trying to keep yourself together. And even then, you didn't crumble. That kind of strength doesn't need to be broadcast. It deserves to be respected. And the truth is, when you're emotionally strong, people will try to test you. They'll push your buttons to see if you'll react the way you used to. They'll try to pull you into old arguments, old habits, old versions of yourself. But you've outgrown all that. You don't react from pain anymore. You respond from peace. You've realized that not every battle deserves your energy, not every insult deserves your attention, and not every person deserves your access. Strength doesn't mean being unbreakable. It means knowing when to walk away before something breaks you. It means choosing yourself, even when it disappoints others. It means protecting your softness without letting the world harden you. Because real strength isn't cold, it's calm. It's knowing you could destroy someone with the truth, but you choose silence instead. It's the quiet confidence of a woman who no longer needs to prove she's okay, because she actually is. You don't have to show your strength for people to see it. Let them wonder how you stay grounded. Let them be confused by your peace. Let them question how you can smile when everything around you is uncertain, because your strength isn't for them to understand. It's for you to live. And that's when you'll know you've truly evolved, when your peace becomes louder than your pain. One of the hardest lessons life will ever teach you is this: not everyone deserves to know where you're headed. When you're young, you want to share everything. You talk about your plans, your dreams, your next moves, thinking people will be happy for you. But as you get older, you start to notice something. The more you share, the more interference you invite. People project their fears, their jealousy, their doubt onto your dreams, and before you know it, you start second guessing yourself. That's why silence isn't secrecy, it's strategy. There's a peace that comes when you stop explaining what you're building. You stop announcing every step and start moving quietly. You don't owe anyone an update on your goals, your relationships, your healing, or your progress. Because the truth is, most people don't want to see you fail. They just don't want you to rise higher than they expected. And when they sense you're moving towards something bigger, something freer, they'll start planting seeds of doubt in your mind. Are you sure that's a good idea? What if it doesn't work? Don't you think it's too late for that? It sounds like concern, but it's really control. When you keep your plans private, you take back control. You stop giving people access to influence your path. You move with confidence, not because you have it all figured out, but because you know the noise around you can't derail you anymore. Silence keeps your focus sharp. It keeps your energy clean. And it lets your actions speak for you. Think about it. How many times have you told someone about something exciting in your life only for it to fall apart soon after? That's not luck or fate, that's energy. The moment you release your plans too soon, you expose them to doubt, envy, and distraction. Sometimes it's not that the plan wasn't good, it's that it wasn't protected. There's something powerful about being underestimated. When people don't know what you're doing, they can't interfere. They can't block what they can't see. You don't need everyone's approval to make progress. You don't even need their understanding. Some things grow best in silence, and your future is one of them. The most successful, peaceful people I know are the quiet ones. They don't brag, they don't explain, they just show up one day with results that speak louder than any announcement ever could. Because when you stay quiet, your moves hit harder, you let your results do the talking, and that's silence, that's power. And yes, keeping your plans private might make some people uncomfortable. They'll accuse you of being secretive, distant, or prideful. But that's because your silence exposes their insecurity. They're not mad that you're quiet, they're mad that they can't predict you anymore. But unpredictability is protection. It's freedom. It's your way of saying, I don't need validation, I need peace. You don't owe explanations for why you're moving differently. You don't have to justify your new habits, your new boundaries, or your new ambitions. The woman you are now is not for public opinion. She's for purpose. And purpose doesn't need applause. It needs discipline. So build quietly, heal quietly, win quietly. Let the world see only the end result, not the process, because when you move in silence, your success makes the noise for you. And when it does, they'll ask how you did it, but you'll just smile. Because the truth is, real power doesn't announce itself. It just arrives. There comes a time in every woman's life when she realizes that not everyone is meant to walk the whole journey with her. Some people are only meant for a chapter, not the entire story. And yet, we hold on to old friendships, old loves, old habits, because they once felt like home. But the truth is, when you start growing, when you start healing, you will outgrow certain people. And that's not arrogance. That's evolution. The hardest part isn't letting them go. It's learning to stay silent about it. You don't have to explain who you've outgrown. You don't have to justify your peace. People will say you've changed. And they'll say it like it's a bad thing. They'll call your distance pride. They'll call your quietness attitude. They'll call your boundaries cold. But what they'll never understand is how much you had to fight just to stop letting people drain you. They don't see the nights you spent forgiving people who never apologized. They don't see how many times you showed up for those who never showed up for you. And when you finally decide to stop doing that, to stop sacrificing yourself for people who wouldn't do the same, they call it selfish. But it's not selfish. It's survival. When you start walking in peace, the noise around you gets louder. That's because your growth threatens the comfort of those who stayed the same. They'll start reminding you of who you used to be. They'll bring up old versions of you, trying to pull you back into conversations, arguments, and habits you've already healed from. Don't go back. Don't explain. Just move differently. You don't owe anyone an announcement that you've outgrown them. Your absence says, everything your words, don't have to. And maybe that's what maturity really is, realizing you can love people deeply and still decide they're not good for your peace. You can wish them well and still walk away. You can forgive without returning. You can care without staying connected. You can let go quietly, gracefully, without turning it into a scene. Because sometimes silence is the most respectful goodbye. There's a special kind of strength in a woman who no longer chases closure. She doesn't need to be understood. She doesn't need to defend her decisions. She just knows that peace is the highest form of love, and anyone who costs her peace, no matter who they are, can't stay. You can't keep explaining your growth to people committed to misunderstanding you. You can't keep lowering your vibration to meet people who have no intention of rising. You owe it to yourself to protect the woman you've become. You've cried too hard, healed too long, and learned too much to go back to the same chaos that once broke you. You don't need to prove that you've changed. Your peace proves it. You don't need to announce who you've outgrown. Your energy does that naturally. When people can no longer access you, they'll create stories about why. Let them. Your silence is your strength, and your distance is your boundary. And here's the truth. You're not losing people. You're losing versions of yourself that tolerated what no longer aligns with who you are. You're not walking away from love. You're walking toward peace. You're not closing doors out of bitterness. You're closing them out of wisdom. Growth isn't loud. It's quiet. It's choosing not to explain why you're protecting your peace, just doing it. So, when someone asks why you've changed, why you've gone quiet, or why you've pulled back, smile and say nothing, because some goodbyes don't need to be spoken. They just need to be lived.